Well, tonight we got an early candidate for best game of the year.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm still not used to the theme song. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, why would they give me a lower third where I'm called Sully? I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season as a member of the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're following us on YouTube or on any of the other social media and you want to leave a comment, what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to leave that hashtag EverydaySully so we give an idea of who's listening to us. It actually helps us a little bit. By the way, if you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of what I'm doing here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and you can't get enough of me, well, let me tell you something. There are 5 additional episodes of Locked On that I'm recording every single week because along with hosting Locked On MLB, I am also hosting Locked On A's, at least for the time being. And I got to tell you something. I thought it was going to be a chore. It is no chore because these A's are fun. And do you know what they're doing? They're winning. I mean, they have a losing record, to be sure, but we all thought this would be a 120-loss team. They keep winning series, and I think that's pretty cool. Hey, we got some people. There's a live feed here. Our Janice Richard always says, hello, Mr. Sully. No. Mr. Sully was my dad. I'm just Sully. Let's go over a little bit. Oh, today's episode, I forgot to mention, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go. It helps me get that competitiveness out of me. It's a mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and on Google Play. And hey, before we get into what the wonderful game that was played in Seattle, the trivia question, I said, who was the first Mexican-born player in Major League Baseball? And a couple of people got it right. A couple of people got it wrong. But Triple Play MX is one of those who got it right. It was Baldomero Mela Almada, who was born in Sonora, Mexico, and he was raised in Los Angeles and was signed by the Red Sox and played him in 1933. And here's the reason why I find that strange. The Red Sox were not exactly a very progressive team. As you may remember, they became the last team to integrate, and they lost a racial discrimination suit in the 1980s, which is really hard to do. But keep in mind, the contract of Melo Almada was signed the year before Tom Yawkey took over the Boston Red Sox. So I guess that tracks. With my history of following the Red Sox and living in New England and everything like that, the Yankees were horrible people. And for many different reasons. And the Red Sox did not win a World Series because of them. And the minute that Rancid family sold the team, they started winning lots of World Series. So there you go. That's all I'm going to leave at that. Hey, for those of you on the East Coast who may have been asleep, wow, you missed a fantastic game in Seattle between the Mariners and the Braves. And you know what? This was a wonderful night of baseball. This is why I do this podcast, not to talk about labor disputes or Shohei Ohtani's interpreter or what's going to happen with Oakland. It's about the day in and day out of following this sport. And you know, the NBA playoffs are great. The Stanley Cup playoffs are great. You like NFL, fine. Nothing beats baseball because you get nights like this every night. Now, in Seattle in front of, what was the crowd? In front of 26,000 people at whatever the hell they're calling that park these days, was the early candidate for Game of the Year. Now, Bryce Miller was the starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, and he's off to a really, really good start so far this year. And up against him was the Atlanta Braves pitcher, who is Max Fried, obviously a World Series hero, obviously someone they may be taking a little bit of care of because of his injury issues, but someone who's a big, big piece of the Braves' hope of trying to win another World Series this decade. Well, they both had it. Absolutely had they were on their game. Through 3 innings, no hits. All right, that happens sometimes. Through 4 innings, no hits. Through 5 innings, no hits. Through 6 innings, I started getting texts from my friends that they were throwing a dual no-hitter. The dual no-hitter went into the 7th inning, and Acuna broke it up with a single. He stole second, he stole third, and then came home when Albie singled him home, or actually doubled him home. And with that, and 100 pitches for Fried, he was still throwing a no-hitter at the time, but Snitker said, you know what? Long-term thinking. Your goal is to have Fried pitching in October, not in April. And so the glory, and I get it. I know some people don't like combined no-hitters. I don't mind them. I honestly don't. But they brought in Johnson to pitch the 7th, and guess what? Struck out the side. And I started thinking, wow, okay, this is going to be one of those nights, isn't it? And then in the 8th inning, with a combined no-hitter still going on, the Mariners rallied, loaded up the base, and put a couple of hits on the board. Who was for? Was it Rojas? I think it was Rojas came and he got a pinch hit single to start the hits, and then Raleigh got a hit, but then no can do. They Hall and Oates it, and so they go to the 9th inning. Atlanta clinging to a 1-0 lead. Minter on the mound, and Polanco got a hit, and then up stepped Mr. Mitch Garver. And Garver hit a massive 2-run home run to send Seattle into a frenzy. And you know what? There was something kind of fitting because Miller did not deserve a loss. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. Took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. It was a night where you thought you were going to see one great thing, and then you wound up seeing another one. Rug pulled from one team, rug pulled from another team, and it was a thrilling game. It was well played. There were no errors. I didn't watch the entire game, but it struck me as a game where there wasn't a lot of umpire controversies, and it came in at an economical 2 hours and 29 minutes. In other words, the pace of play was fast, it was fun, and it was a hair stand on the hair standing on edge type of game between two teams that have legitimate thoughts of winning a pennant this year. I mean, lest we forget, the Atlanta Braves are an outstanding team, and of course they have a great offense, and they have images of a World Series title dancing in their heads right now. And as of this recording, the Atlanta Braves sit atop the National League East with a 19-8 record, a game and a half ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies. And lest we forget, because Texas was idle, the Seattle Mariners are in first place in the American League West. And I will admit, as the host of Locked On A's, when I saw there was a chance the Mariners could lose, I thought, wow, this would mean that the A's would be within 2.5 games of first place. Alas, that's not the case. But that's not the point. Fact of the matter is, a fantastic game was played on all levels. And it was, as I said, was a fabulous night of baseball. But the game of the night and so far of the year was played between Seattle and Atlanta. And keep that in mind, because that's one of the great things about this wonderful, wonderful game. You never know what the cool game is going to be. It just so happened to be in Seattle. And the beauty is they're all going to play again tomorrow. There's no sport like this. I talked about there's no sport like this, but do you know what? There are other sports going on. You have the NBA playoffs are going on, and it looks like the Celtics are doing well. You have the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on, and of course, you have fabulous games going on in baseball. Head over to FanDuel, and that's the place to place your bet on every game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks to dual no-hitters. I wonder who had money on that. All on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, Locked On fans and all fans of sports everywhere. I have the new place for you to visit if you want the best analysis, opinions, and news in sports. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories with the Locked On crew. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. You know, going into today's games, I'm recording this on very late on Monday, so I'm saying today's, I mean Monday's games. Going to Monday's games, the game that I had circled was Baltimore versus the Yankees, because those are two teams. The game separates the two of them. The Orioles were expected by many to win the division. I picked them, but the Yankees have turned a lot of things around. They're getting production. Rizzo had a phenomenal game last on Sunday, so it was a sense of, hey, the Yankees have improved a lot. Now the Orioles are coming off of a really, really agonizing weekend for Baltimore fans, where they lost 2 out of 3 to the Oakland A's due to Kimbrel, who was awful. So you have two teams whose offenses are clicking, and you just saw a slugfest was coming about. And Henderson led off the game with his 10th home run of the year. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this, the Orioles optioned Jackson Holliday to the minor leagues, and not because they're playing games with his contract. It's because, you know what? He actually does need more seasoning. Sometimes that happens. But Henderson hit a home run to start the game, okay. But then Rodriguez pitched well for Baltimore. And Schmidt pitched after the home run, he only let up 2 more hits for the next 5 2/3 innings. It was 1-0 going into the 8th inning. And it wasn't until an error by Volpe in the 8th inning, gave Baltimore an extra run, 2-0 game. And because they don't have Craig Kimbrel, they had to dip into their bullpen a little bit deeper, and they pulled out. You would think that I would be able to pronounce his name correctly because I lived in a French-speaking country. It's Danny Coulombe. Danny Coulombe. There you go. Well, Danny Coulombe came out and he got the save. And that was career save number 3. He got 2 saves last year, and now he got 1/3 of his career saves today. And there you go. Don't always pull to the same people. But now the Baltimore Orioles are now tied or in a virtual tie on top of the American League East standings right now. Luis Severino, former Yankee, is now with the Mets, and he took a no-hitter deep into the game, only to have it be broken up, and ultimately the Cubs won the game on a Morel home run. It was a final there, 3-1, and the Cubs have made it to the top of the standings in the NL Central. The Phillies, who seem to be having the best pitcher of the league almost every single night, lost the slugfest. They were up 3 runs before the Angels even came to bat. And this was after the Angels got absolutely trounced by Minnesota. And without getting much help from Trout, who pulled a walk, and he did score. But Adele got a home run. Ward got a big double. And the bullpen settled down after Canning's rough start, and they wound up beating Philadelphia 6-5. One to remember at the end of the year, once if it gets to the point where the Phillies are indeed chasing the Braves for that title. By the way, the A's won 5-1, which means if against Pittsburgh, who's a little spotty, but if they win one of the next 2 games against Pittsburgh, that's yet another series win for the A's, who, by the way, are guaranteed to go into May in 3rd place. Again, not starting any parades with that, but this is a lot better than people thought this team was going to be. Admit it. The Blue Jays topped the Royals in a big slugfest in Toronto. We're going to be doing a crossover with Locked On Blue Jays pretty soon. But another game where the team jumped out, it was Velasquez got a double to get the scoring started early for Kansas City. But Dodger fans, your old friend Justin Turner is finding there's still some homers in that beard, as he homered a couple of times. And Toronto, who climbed back to 500, but they're really an enigma of a team. But I'll tell you what's not an enigma, and that's the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins, you have to give them credit, because at one point they were absolutely flopping like a fish on the dock, or more likely a Miami Marlin on the dock. And they went through a stretch where they went 3-9 for one stretch of baseball that was truly a dreadful stretch. A couple of losses they lost to Baltimore. They got swept by Baltimore. They got pounded by Cleveland. They got pounded by Los Angeles. And they looked like, what the hey is going on with the team that won the division last year? And they went to the Chicago White Sox and swept them. Then they went to the LA Angels and swept them. And then faced the White Sox again, and they won the opener there. And now you've looked up, and the Twins are in the middle of an 8-game winning streak. I actually did a double take when I saw that they were having an 8-game freaking winning streak. And you could poo-poo it, saying, well, yeah, they're beating the Angels. Okay, fine, whatever. They're beating the White Sox. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. That's how you dust yourself off. Just ask all the teams who've been losing the Oakland A's, who were circling them in the standings and saying, oh, well, there's some easy wins there. Oh, wow, how did we lose that series? I'm sure Pittsburgh thought they were going to get a couple extra wins, just like the Yankees and Baltimore did. But guess what happened? Texas thought they were going to get it too. Guess what happened? Watch what happens, my son used to say. And so, you know what? Good for the Twins. It is a division where, Cleveland's off to a terrific start, and Cleveland has a nice big lead at this point. But the Twins, if they got to make up ground, sweep those bad teams and sweep them well. We got a live stream. See if anyone's got any. Just listen to some of the comments here. This was Drive with Bishop writes, if by the All-Star games the Mariners are in first or close second place, they need to trade Hancock or Wu to get Vlad Jr. or Bregman from the Astros. Do you want Bregman? What part of Bregman right now looks good? I know you think, oh, he could come and have a um, a renaissance or something. But don't get too cocky with the whole. Don't get too cocky with the whole Astros in last place. There's a lot of time, and sometimes things correct themselves. If you don't believe me, remember it wasn't too long ago. People were, hey, what's going on with the Dodgers? The Padres are on the verge of passing them. What's going on with the Dodgers? Teams are they're off to a slow start, and I'm here in Los Angeles County. There are actually people saying, well, maybe it's time to get rid of Dave Roberts. What's up with the Dodgers? What's up with the Dodgers? Do you know what team has the biggest lead of any division leader right now heading into May? That would be the Dodgers. They're playing 600 ball. They won again. They've won 7 of their last 10. And what about the Astros? The Astros, yeah, they've not been playing well, but they've won a couple of games in a row. And who's ahead of them? The Angels and the A's. I love what the A's are doing, but guess what? They're all winnable and they're all beatable. So there you go. But before we go on, I'm going to talk about in our final segment, about a game that, quite frankly, is a little bit difficult for me to figure out what really should have been called. My mom listens to every episode, and so I know she's listening to me now. Mom, I'm spoiling you something. We're getting you something for Mother's Day. But what are me and my boys going to get my mom? I'm not going to spoil you. Am I going to get her some flowers for the kitchen island or some self-care essentials? Actually, my mom likes practical gifts that she could use, like the latest tech. I'm not going to tell you, Mom, but I'll tell you how we're going to get it. We're going to use DoorDash. We may use same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead of time. We will get savings that will make you proud of both of us. Easy for you to say, because we're going to use the Dash Pass membership. We will save with a $0 delivery fee, reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fees, apply, and terms apply. You too can order now and get everything you need on Mother's Day from DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off of your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenient grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. DoorDash. Terms apply. And Mom, we've got this. Hey, this is a quick reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV's channel app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channel app. All right, I have to be honest with you. A play happened, and in the ninth inning, between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Milwaukee Brewers. And it was a 1-0 game, and it was a well-pitched, well-played game, no errors. And I like that. I like that there was well played. Again, a tidy 2 hours and 30 minutes game. The one run was scored in the first inning by Tampa. It was on a wait, who got it? It was actually, how did it happen? It was a ground out that scored a run in the first, and that was your offense. That was your total offense. And 1-0 game. Tampa's trying to climb back into this race. Milwaukee's trying to stay ahead in first place. A play happened where it looked like the Brewers tied the game in the ninth inning, and there was a swinging strike with two strikes on Jake Bauers, but the ball got away. He ran to first, and Sal Frelick came in and scored the tying run. Except that's not what happened. The umpire called interference at home plate. Now, it wasn't interference for the wild pitch with 2 strikes, but it was interference that when Bauer swung the bat, the back end of the bat hit the catcher in the helmet. And I don't know if that affected whether or not he was going to get up and make the play or something like that, but he was called out for interference. And with that, the run was negated, and eventually the Rays held on for a 1-0 win. Now, Murphy, the manager of Milwaukee, was adamant that that was the incorrect call. The umpires were adamant that it was. And I'm at the article at MLB.com, rules 6.03A, 3 and 4. If the batter interferes with the catcher, the plate umpire shall call interference. The batter is out and the ball dead. No player may advance. And all runners must return to the last base that was, in the judgment of the umpire, legally touched at the time of interference. If, however, the catcher makes a play and a runner attempting to advance is put out, it is assumed there was no actual interference and the runner is out, not the batter. Any other runners on base at the time may advance, as the ruling is there's no actual interference. So Murphy was saying there was no interference. The umpire said there was. Now, I have no bone to pick on this one. I have no dog in the fight of Milwaukee versus Tampa Bay. But am I wrong that if you clock the catcher on the top of the head with your bat, how is that not interference? How does that not affect him? That may not have affected the wild pitch, but that sure as hell going to affect how he gets up and tries to field it. He just got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I mean, that's what happened to Joe Pesci in freaking Casino. I mean, wouldn't that be? I don't look at. I understand that Murphy was angry about what happened, especially what looked like they just tied the game in a razor-thin ball game. But I mean, I saw the clip and I read the rule. The freaking catcher got hit in the head with a bat. And then someone explain, someone whose handle is not Rays fan or Brewers fan, someone from 28 other fan bases has to explain what the controversy is. I thought, yeah, he hit him right in the head with a bat. So yeah, that's going to affect that. I can't think of a bigger form of interference. This is not Ed Arbrister and Carlton Fisk sort of, jostling at home plate. This is Cronk with a big piece of ash. So let me know. I don't understand why this is I can understand why it's frustrating, but good Lord, help me out there. All right. But anyway, this is a fun night of baseball. I love it where we can just sort of bounce around on the cool games. I'm going to talk a little. Today's trivia question is going to be about no-hitters. Now, the Hall of Famer Burt Blyleven played for many different teams, bounced around, had some tremendous all-star caliber season with multiple teams through his long and marvelous career. Which team did Burt Blyleven throw his no-hitter on? For what team did Burt Blyleven record his lone no-hitter in the major leagues? That is your trivia question for tonight. And put it down here on the comment section and on YouTube, or put it down Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now on Instagram, or I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball and Twitter Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talk about a fabulous day of baseball and saying that, hey, I'm not saying it's going to be the best game of the year, but it's the leader in the clubhouse right now. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.